Visual Studio 2010 includes a lot of technology. It has several components, and different development teams will pick different configurations. If you're interested in adopting this tool set, you need to understand at least the basics of how Microsoft sells it. You also need to think about how you might move from where you are to a VS 2010 world. I'm going to talk a bit about both of these things. First, it's important to understand that the functions VS 2010 provides are divided across several different software components. Microsoft groups these components into a variety of different products, commonly referred to as stock keeping units, SKUs. Here are the primary SKUs for VS 2010, along with the components in each one. Along the top, you see the components: TFS, the Visual Studio IDE, Team Explorer, Microsoft Test Manager, Lab Management, and Team Explorer Everywhere. The SKU called Visual Studio 2010 Ultimate includes almost all of them, all except Lab Management. The SKU called VS 2010 Premium includes TFS, the IDE, and Team Explorer. The SKU called VS 2010 Professional also includes TFS, the IDE, and Team Explorer, but it's not the same as Premium. I will describe the differences between it and, in fact, Ultimate in just a minute. VS Test Professional 2010 includes TFS, Team Explorer, and critically, Microsoft Test Manager. This is the SKU to buy if what you really want is MTM. And notice something else. Notice the asterisk on all of these SKU names. All of them actually provide TFS as part of an MSDN subscription. An MSDN subscription provides a bunch of Microsoft software that can be used for development and test purposes only. And that's where TFS is provided with these SKUs. You can also buy TFS on its own if you choose to. There's also a SKU for Lab Management itself, and there's a SKU just for Team Explorer Everywhere. Notice, as I said before, the first three SKUs shown in the table, VS 2010 Ultimate, VS 2010 Premium, VS 2010 Professional, all include TFS, the VS IDE, and Team Explorer. And yet, they're different products. Each one has its own set of functions. Here's how they compare. The foundation is Visual Studio 2010 Professional. It includes support for the languages in Visual Studio, C#, VB, C++, others. Support for building Windows and web apps, for building SharePoint apps and Windows Azure apps, Office apps, multi-core development, unit testing, and a range of designers. The next step up is Visual Studio 2010 Premium. It adds more testing support, things like diagnostic data adapters, coded UI testing, and test impact analysis. It also has performance profiling, static code analysis, code coverage, code metrics, and a range of support working with databases. The highest end is Visual Studio 2010 Ultimate, which adds to this Microsoft Test Manager, including various testing facilities, IntelliTrace, web performance testing, load testing, UML modeling, and other architectural tools like layer diagrams and sequence diagrams. The previous release of this product was known as Visual Studio Team System. In that version, Microsoft offered different SKUs aimed at different roles: architects, developers, testers, and database developers. But many development teams don't have a sharp separation between these roles. Everyone does at least a little of everything. And so Microsoft chose to adopt this nested structure instead for Visual Studio 2010. Which version an organization or a single developer buys depends on exactly what functionality they require. Every development team today already uses some tools. They might use the VS IDE, for instance, along with a tool for version control, and another one for bug tracking, and maybe an open source unit testing framework. The simplest thing to do is just to adopt the Visual Studio 2010 IDE. Developers can use this new version of the IDE with their existing tools if they choose to. If, however, the team decides to adopt the entire integrated VS 2010 tool set, moving from where they are to this new world will require more thought. One common way to do this is to adopt VS 2010 for a new project. This project uses only the new tool set, which lets developers get good at using these new tools. Assuming all goes well, another project can then use VS 2010, probably seeded with experienced people from that first project. What about existing software that's maintained in some other version control system? One option here is to migrate that code base to TFS. Both Microsoft partners and Microsoft itself offer tools to help do this. Alternatively, an organization might choose to leave the existing source where it is and use VS 2010 only for new projects. Or a third option is to have the source code directory structure on a developer's local machine mirror the structure used by both TFS and the other version control system. This lets the same source code be managed by TFS version control and the other system, which can help in migration. Both craftsmen and artists depend on their tools. Software developers are a little of both, and they're no less tool dependent. Good tools aren't enough. They also need good people. But using the right tools can certainly make development teams more effective. And when teams are functioning well, work gets done, projects get completed, and customers are happy. At the end of the day, isn't this the goal of every development project?